Hi, and welcome everyone. My name is Kristoffer Nordstrom, and I'm here today to talk about boring releases, or how we ship every week without drama in my team. Now, first of all, disclaimer, you will not learn anything new in my talk today. There will be zero takeaways. You will not walk out of this room thinking, wow, that guy team organization is brilliant. They're light year ahead of us. How did they think of this? Promise. That being said, let me give you a background here. I'm an independent contractor, software tester at heart, and I currently work for the customer called CodePath. Now, CodePath is based over in California, and it's a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to provide tech education to the minorities, primarily the BLI minorities over in the US, Black, Latino, Indigenous. And we are a remote-first organization. Like I said, the office is in California, but honestly, all the employees are spread out over the US. Our operations department is based over in the Philippines, so quite a lot of time zones to cover in between there. And the background for this story here is that in the spring of 2021, my best friend, Frederick Hard, a name, by the way, if you've been at PyConSe before, that should be familiar to you, he was brought in, because he's an independent contractor as well, to restart the Django backend theme there. Because the last developer had left quite a long time ago, and they hadn't had a release in well over 13 months at that point. So Frederick did what you usually do. He started looking at the source code. He started fixing some bugs, got some releases out. And then after a couple of months or so, he went to our manager, Nathan, and he said, Nathan, I could start ramping up the team right now. I could hire more Django developers. The problem, I don't want to do that. Because we have a product backlog that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tickets. Some of them are 6 to 7 years old at this point. It's not exactly super clear who our most important stakeholder is, what's the most prioritized at this point, and when we should do it. So I feel if we start recruiting more developers, we run the significant risk of just doing the wrong things faster. So, but I happen to have a friend, Kristoffer. I think he is a perfect fit for this. So long story, very short, in the summer of 2021, I started working with Frederick on restarting the backend team at CodePath. And Nathan, our manager, told us that you had this mission from me. You should restart the backend team, and I want you to deliver semi-regular releases to the backend with high-quality software for the right people, doing the right thing, and in the right priority. Apart from that, you have full autonomy. You can run the backend team any way you see fit. Which is kind of great, because me and Frederick at this point, we're getting a little bit old at this point. We worked in senior roles over the years with different customers, and we have opinions on how you do software development well, let's just say that. So we started tackling this assignment here with great gusto. And my current role at CodePath is, well, my role description is adult person in the room. Kid you not, look me up on LinkedIn. I have that as my official title these days, and I think it fits me really well. The background for adult person in the room, by the way, was that when Frederick came and said, we need, some order and structure in the team here, I need an adult person in the room. So what do I do then? Well, I do the testing. I am a software tester after all. I am the primary interface for our stakeholders and users. Whenever they have a problem or something is missing or there's a bug, they know that it's me that they come talk to. And I'll work together with them, understanding what their problems is, and then I'll work together with my team to make sure that we build or fix whatever is missing for them. I'm also therefore the one who writes all the bug reports and do the triaging. I am a software tester. I do know how to write good bug reports. Therefore, I also write all the requirements. Well, almost all the requirements. And they're good requirements, by the way. Clear, unambiguous, testable requirements. How many times have you had that in your tickets? I do the graphical mockups for our UI work whenever I feel that it would bring value to my developers when they are about to pick up a ticket. I do the end-to-end test automation. We started with Suppress. The last year, we've migrated over to Playwright, because Playwright, Python, PyTest, awesome. I am also the second-level support for operations. Whenever there's something in our platform that's not supported for them, they come to me and I help them solve it, either via logging into the Grafana admin panel in Django and tweak things, or worst case, and don't tell Fredrik about this, I log into production and start a Django shell. I'm the project lead. I'm the Scrum Master. I'm the one who arranges our weekly team stand-ups. Yep, you heard that right. Weekly team stand-ups. 15 to 20 minutes. What did I do last week? What I'm going to do this week? Do I have any problems? That's the only scheduled meeting we have in our team, in our calendars. Exactly. That's the reaction I wanted. When I get bored and have time over, I do bug fixes and small features, because I have worked as a developer, and for the last decade plus, I've been teaching my own class called Python for Testers. And oh yeah, I handle our releases, I cut release candidates, and I do the release announcements as well. Now, the reason why I bring this up here today is not to toot my own horn and tell you how much I do. The reason why I bring this up here is to say that these, with the exception of bug fixes and small features, these support activities are essential in any team or organization that does software development well. We typically have a, bless you, we typically have a project lead, we have a Scrum Master, we have a tester, maybe a test automator, we have a graphic designer. The problem is that typically the amount of activities for a Scrum Master or project lead doesn't add up for a full-time equivalent in one team. So they get spread out over multiple teams with some problems of its own. So that means that I basically do, well, I do everything that my developer and architect doesn't do. My own assignment is to make sure that they can work as efficient as possible, to clear away all the problems, to make sure that the feature requirements or the bug reports are as clear as they can be, that it has all the information they need to get started with working without having to seek clarification immediately. So when I joined CodePath, I realized that my number one thing that I need to work on was to establish relationships and communications. After all, my biggest hero, Jerry Weinberg, once said, software development is a social activity. And the one thing that I really needed to do, since we were based over, well, the company is based over in California, but our operations department is over in the Philippines. I knew that communication and relationships was going to be key to making this work. So one of the persons that I established a relationship with was Patricia. Now, Patricia is the head of operations over the Philippines. She literally built that department herself, and she had been with CodePath basically from the beginning. So she knew exactly how the system worked, front to backwards and backwards to front, and she had all that nice history of why do we do things in a certain way, etc., etc. I also knew that I had to spend a lot of time building relationships with the operations department, to let them know that if you find a bug or a problem or there's something you're missing, please come talk with me. I love to talk with you about it and see if we can work together to understand what you need. And then I'll work with my team and see if we can build and ship whatever is missing for you. There were a lot of challenges with that, specifically a lot of cultural challenges with that I unfortunately don't have time to dive into too much today. But some of the other things that we did a lot of fun things with the operation department. One of them was running bug bashes. So for instance, we migrated our CSS framework at one point to Materialize. High risk of a lot of UI bugs. So we essentially ran a bug bash together with the operation department, telling them to help us out. We had great fun, and essentially the person who logged the first bug that day, they got a little badge, a little award, first bug. We had the weirdest bug of the day, and if you just participated, we had I love my backend team. All fun, silly, just having some fun together and getting to know each other. So my team that I work with, How do we communicate and how do we work? Well, first of all, my team consists of Vanessa. She's a developer in Washington on the East Coast. We have Sonia, who's based in the Netherlands near Amsterdam. We have Arun. He is a developer in the south of India. Then we have me in Sweden. And we have Frederick, who spends the summer half of the year in his cottage in Sweden. But when wintertime comes, he takes his van and takes his wife and his dog, and they usually travel to somewhere much warmer and nicer, like Spain or Portugal. So we really are distributed all over the world. That also means that most of our communication is asynchronous. We use Slack, and we, of course, have our own little Slack team channel where we can discuss our problems, stuff we're working on, ask for help. It's also a place that only we have access to, so we can kind of let our hair down, joke around, have some fun, send funny cat pictures to each other. Actually, I'm the one sending them funny cat pictures, but you get the point. We use a tool called Loom for Loom recordings, and if you're not familiar with it, go check it out, loom.com. And it's a way for you to, in your browser, click a button, and you can start doing a screen recording of your screen. And if you have a headset, you can do a voiceover and comment on what you're doing. That's how I send a lot of my problems or issues that I find to my developers, saying, if I click here and do that, and this happens, and so on. It's a really, really efficient tool, free, but at the same time, very rich in information, I find. Our operations department uses it heavily as well when they send issues and stuff that they need help fixing to us. One of the benefits of using Looms is that you can look at it in your own time. So my developers, they don't need to take a look at it immediately. They can do it when they have time. And they can respond back when they have time as well. Or in Frederick's case, when he heard too much Kristoffer that day, he can put 2 times the speed and just get through with it. We have a stated policy in the team that we made sure to tell everyone, you're not expected to respond immediately if someone writes to you. Just have that out in the open, because we work in different time zones, different times of the days. So we want to make it clear that, if you happen to be online and if you can respond at the same time, sweet. Otherwise, there's no expectation of that. And Frederick and I have made very sure to tell everyone in the team that once you're done for the day, turn off your phone or mute your Slack notifications so you can rest up and come back to tomorrow more well-rested. That's also for us ourselves in the team, because then I can write to, say, Vanessa with a problem I have and ping her without the fear of waking up her and her newborn baby at 2 a.m. in the night over in Washington. So there's a purpose for that. The GitHub repository is, of course, our heart and soul. This is where we have all our source code, but this is also where all the tickets get created. All the bug reports, all the feature tickets, those are created as issues. This makes it really easy for us to just, reference a ticket when we push up a pull request or vice versa. We have a project board, which is a just simple Kanban board, and I go in there, because it's my responsibility to do that, and just add the tickets there. And I have an absolute ranking. Whatever's on top is the most important. Going down, less important. That also means that when a developer runs out of work to do, they can just go into the project board. They can take a look at the top and grab one of the tickets up there that kind of fits their interest and that is most prioritized at this point. We make it really easy to self-serve and work independently without having to rely on synchronous communication. That also means that on every Tuesday afternoon, whatever's on the develop branch, whatever PRs have been merged in there, gets cut into a release candidate, which we do by the click of a button in our Jenkins server. And at the same time, it gets automatically deployed to our staging server, where I can do acceptance testing for the release. Which means that every Wednesday, we can do a weekly, boring, stable release. The whole boring releases part, that was actually Frederick who coined that a while back, saying that is our stated goal. We want to do boring releases. We're too old for those action-filled, drama-filled releases. You know, the ones you do after a 6 or 7 month project and multiple things should be integrated and I hope this works. No, we release every week, Wednesday morning. That's when the US sleeps. Weekly, boring, stable releases. The benefit of this is that it is also easy for me as a tester to have an oversight of what went into this release, what the risk areas, what do I need to test, etc. And if something breaks, it's easy for us to kind of backtrack it. So there's all kind of benefits for us to have small releases every week. And we have full autonomy. Whatever is not ready this week does not get merged. And we make sure that we take the time to fix any outstanding bugs that we know are present in the PRs, or to just take a little bit of extra time to refactor and finish up our code. The other benefit of this is also that in case we don't finish up a feature or a bug report this week, then I can always communicate ahead of time, telling the stakeholders and users to say, hey, sorry, for tomorrow's release, we're not going to make it for this bug fix here that you needed. But it's likely going to be part of next week's release. And 9 times out of 10, our stakeholders and users say, you know what, that's fine. We can wait 7 days. We can manage somehow. We'll make it work. There are times, though, when we know that delaying a feature or a bug request is not optional to wait a week, because maybe admissions is starting on a specific date or whatever. And at those points, we have first days. On those points, we can work on Wednesday, fix whatever is needed in the PR, and then on first day, it's super easy for us to just update the release branch. We'll push a button, and in 15 to 20 minutes, we have a new release candidate built for that, which, like I said, takes like 15 to 20 minutes. If we want to deploy it to our staging cluster and have it tested there before release, and we always want that, then it takes like an hour and a half for me to go through the testing to make sure that we haven't broken anything fundamental or that we do something embarrassing. After release, I have like half an hour of administrative work of writing the release announcement, closing the tickets that's been done. But overall, if we need to, we can get a patch release out from, as we say in Sweden, from axe to limp within 2 hours, approximately. It's not that hard for us to do. Now, this has a bonus effect of building a lot of trust with our users, because they know that they are probably going to get the bug fix next week. They're not going to have to sit and wait for several months until the next release window. To get to this point, though, it wasn't free. It's taken a lot of time on our part to improve the environment that we work with. We've done a lot of technical improvements over the years. When Fredrik and I started the team, we inherited an infrastructure where we had old static servers that were deployed with our cloud provider, servers that were years old. You know, the kinds where you cross your fingers and pray to higher power when you're going to do a system update, and please, please, keep breathing. So one of the first things that we did was to make sure that we migrated our services to Docker containers. We have our Django server running as a Docker service. We have our cellular workers, Redis, etc., etc. You get the point. Easy to spin up, easy to take down. Easy to spin up, easy to take down. And I always have a predictable state every time I do that. A natural consequence of that was a year and a half later, probably, we started orchestrating our Docker containers in static Kubernetes clusters in production, which made it much easier to spin up and down our infrastructure. This also has the benefit of, if we have a cluster configured in production, it is super simple to copy that and spin up test clusters that are identical to the ones we run in production. So at any given point in time, we have 3 clusters up and running: staging, integration, and dev, and we use them for different purposes. We work a lot with testability in our team. After all, 3 of us in the team have one or another background in software testing since before, so we're quite test-infected, as I like to say. One of the first things that I needed to do when we started was to automate our end-to-end tests, suppress. But in order to do that, I needed test data. So, I have worked as a developer before. I know Python, but I didn't know Django. So I did whatever was easiest and most pragmatic at that point. In my suppress tests, I basically opened up the Grapheli admin panel and created the objects manually there from the scripts, and then tied them together with the IDs and the references. Now, being a test developer, of course, I knew that this is not the best approach. It's slow, as you probably know, and it's also quite brittle to do it via the GUI. So after a couple of months, I was talking with Frederick, and I was complaining about it. Or actually, I think it was more Frederick that complained about the CI was taking a lot of time, and the tests were actually slow. So anyway, he said, well, Kristoffer, you know what you could do? You could just write a Django view instead. And again, like I said, I know Python, I know how to code. I had never worked with Django before, but I love to learn new stuff. So I created a Django view where we create the test data via Python Django code instead, and the performance improved massively. I could start adding error catching, all of those kind of things to build in tolerances in our creation of test data. And then we expose that to an endpoint that we only enable in our test clusters. It's /test automation /create test data. And then we also have another one which is called /test automation /delete test data. So very easy from my nowadays playwright scripts to just call that URL, boom, create the test data. A few seconds later, ready. Delete the test data, create the test data, delete the test data. I get clean, predictable test data at all times, and much faster than before. I hadn't been able to do that unless I had a good relationship with my developers, and they were actually talking to me, understanding my issues and problems, and they were able to help me out. Another thing we do is we have a Jenkins job running nightly, where we take a database dump from the production Postgres database. And since I'm blessed enough to work with an architect who happens to have his own open source repository for data masking, we use that. So we data mask and PII clean the production data every night, and we store that on our storage. We make use of Invoke a lot in our dev environment. So when I get into the morning, I simply need to type in inv db.getDump, and half a minute or a minute later, the latest database dump is downloaded to my environment whenever they're testing. It's quite awesome. We've even written our own tool or framework or whatever you call it to be able to observe the objects in our database. It's called the Data and Event Explorer, and you simply decorate a Django model as explorable, and then we automatically store all the events and changes that happens to those objects of that type. I can also open up in a web browser the Data and Event Explorer, and I have a table of all the events that happened, created, modified, deleted, the diffs, etc. And also in another table, I have all the properties for that model or that object. If it's linked to something else, those are hyperlinks, and I can go inspect the other ones there. It is, as a tester, quite the dream to work with that. We integrate with Sentry for automatic capture of exceptions and stack traces. We use New Relic for monitoring the performance of our clusters, and to see which requests are coming in and which are taking the most time. And of course, we worked a lot on the test automation. Unit tests, API tests, end-to-end tests. And of course, when we push stuff, a PR up to GitHub, gets executed automatically in a CI job, so we get quick feedback on this. We didn't get there from day one, like I said. But I joined summer of 2021, and since November 2021, we have had continuous weekly releases every single week, with the exception of Christmas and team holidays. It's easy as a new team to be motivated and do all these things like, oh yes, let's start on this new project, greenfield project. But over time, after a few months, it's easy to lose motivation as a team a little bit. So how have we stayed motivated over the years and are motivated to this day? Well, I think one of the key points here, and I cannot stress this enough, is autonomy. Nathan, our manager, gave us full autonomy to run the team any way we saw fit. So me, Fredrik, and the team together, we decide how we do stuff. What we want, that came from our manager. Clear assignment. How we do it, we decide that ourselves. And I think if you ever worked as an engineer in a project where you have full autonomy on how you do your stuff that you're good at, you know that it's a fantastic feeling to be enabled that way. That also means that we spend a lot of time on mastery in our team, in the sense that we make sure that we always try to improve our dev environments, update the tools that we're using, make small improvements. We code a lot of Invoke tasks to make all the setup and preparations of things a lot easier for ourselves. We improve our test environments. We also make sure that we take time to invest in ourselves to become better. If it's something we don't know how to do, we'll take the time to learn it. Because again, we have full autonomy to do this. As long as we deliver to our stakeholders and users in a reasonable time and they are happy, we can run things any way we want. And it's truly a blessing to do that. We also finally have a purpose. And Fredrik actually told me the other day that his purpose is to be able to sleep at night and take weekends off. And I can get 100% behind that. But more seriously, I think one of the biggest purposes in our team is the operations department over in the Philippines. Because every single week when we do a release and we do a release announcement, those guys and girls are immediately in the release thread writing, "Oh, thank you so much for doing this release. Oh, thank you for thinking about us all the time. This is going to be great, blah, 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 blah." It's almost to the point where, as Fredrik says, it's almost embarrassing how grateful they are. But getting that kind of feedback on a weekly basis, that makes you feel really good, I'll tell you. So we have autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And if you don't recognize this model, I highly recommend that you pick up this book, Drive by Daniel H. Pink. And he talks about what motivates people in problem solving and creative jobs these days, and basically debunks how the whole carrot and stick model is outdated at this point. But finally, I think there is one thing that is needed to make of all this work over time, and that is Slack. I'm not talking about the chat client, although that's good. I'm talking about having just that little bit of Slack in the team so you can spend time on improving stuff, or making sure that once your development work for a PR is finished, you can actually go back and refactor it or tidy it up. And that's something that we've gotten feedback on multiple retrospectives, where people are saying that it feels so nice being able to do my job well. So I think all teams need a little bit of Slack, and we make a point of not working for longer consecutive periods of time with only features and bug fixes, because that will kind of erode your code base, your environments, etc., over time. Now, I could talk about this for hours, as you probably noticed at this point, but it's a shorter talk, so I'm running out of time at this point. But I said you were not going to learn some new rocket science. But I do hope that at least you go out of here feeling a little bit more inspired on things and ideas that you can take home for your own team. And always, kids, remember, brush your teeth, change your underwear, do these basic things to do software development well. Thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you very much for the talk. So I guess we can take one quick question. No question? No question. Okay, well, we got one here.
Do you think it would be possible to do daily releases? And would that be valuable?
It's definitely possible, and we've had these discussions in the team. You know, we could go easily to continuous delivery as well if we wanted to. But in our case, I don't think the organization can accept change in a faster pace. just because we can develop and fix stuff faster, there's also someone on the other end who has to update their ways of working and their processes, etc. So we find that having weekly releases finds a very good spot where we can still announce what we released and how it affects them, etc. But it would be possible, of course. But in our context, it just doesn't make sense right now. Good question.
Okay, please thank the speaker again.